to grow with Jesus. Team Jesus is here. No need to fear. Let's dig deeper. Go higher. Words in red, let them be your desire. Jesus' own voice, the truth we need. In words in red, you better take heed. Dig deeper, go higher. Unlocking truth, our spirits rise. Words in red are calling you. Join Team Jesus, it's the best thing for you. Words in red, don't you delay. Come study with us, tune in today.
Hey, welcome everybody to another edition of Words in Red. Greeting, this is Conrad and Susan from Team Jesus at the Ephesians 6 compound in Brantley, Alabama. How you doing, Susan?
Doing all right.
Long time no see.
Not true.
We have some announcements. I wrote them down. Okay, so I did an interview with Harold Vondenstein about his revelation, his prophetic revelation from this white jacket that he had. It's coming out Saturday. You can watch the video now. It's on Facebook and YouTube, but it'll come out as a blog post and a podcast. There's more to it on Saturday at 6 a.m. Central Time. Now, another huge announcement. Words in Red is now in the sidebar at conradrocks.net. You don't have to run around and chase it on YouTube. You can simply go to the sidebar at conradrocks.net. It's easier on the computer.
Yeah,
And
if you're
then-
on your mobile device, you need to go to the web
Web
desktop version to see that.
Right. So it's there. So there's no excuse. You can go see the Words in Red playlist. Also, Food Pantry this Saturday at Faith Walk
Yes.
in Luverne, Alabama.
Yeah, we'll be going in to help. We volunteer. Try to do that every month.
You can do stuff like that too.
Yes. Find one in your
do it
community. It's a
too.
great place to meet people, pray for people.
Oh, it's an amazing place to meet people, pray for people,
Yeah.
and get food.
Yep. You
Seriously.
need food for your family, and a lot of people do. It's a resource that is
Mhm.
very much needed right now.
And we also have praise on Anchor Fellowship is Saturday night.
night, 6:30 p.m. If you'll
Yeah.
look at my timeline, I've got a post with the actual address. You can just put that in your phone and come
Well-
straight to it.
We'll be leading that one since Pastor Quackenboss is gone. And
Yes.
then Praise on the Porch is Tuesday.
Yes, from an
And-
undisclosed location.
Undisclosed location. Yeah, we could be on the moon. I don't know.
We won't be on the moon.
Anyway,
We'll be somewhere cool, we hope. We'll see.
also the ConradRocks.net podcasts and blogs are getting a lot of traffic. Thanks for your shares. So it really does help out a lot when you share the post. So remember, if this has touched you, to share at the end. All right, so we're going to pick up where we left off. Susan's going to read right here. There you
Okay.
go.
We're in Matthew chapter 9, verse 21. And just to preface this is the woman with the issue of blood. She had given all her money to the doctors and had not received any help for her sickness and was desperate and was crawling through the crowd. And this is where this picks up. There's a crowd of people, and here's this woman. For she said within herself, if I may but touch his garment, I shall be whole. But Jesus turned about, and when he saw her, he said, daughter, be of good comfort. Thy faith hath made thee whole. And the woman was made whole from that hour.
Isn't that amazing? There's different
versions of this story.
versions
Yeah.
of this. And I was just sitting here like the other day when you said, well, Jesus probably healed that leper before he touched him. And I'm sitting here, he would be unclean with this girl.
Mhm.
And it doesn't say here.
He didn't touch her.
Well, here it
He just
doesn't say
touched
that.
the hem of
I
her-
just noticed this.
Yeah, he touched the hem of. She touched the hem of his garment, but he wouldn't have. He didn't have to touch her. She was made whole.
Oh no, it says here. It says she did touch his garment in verse 20. It's just not on here. Okay,
Verse
sorry.
21, it says, if I may touch his garment, I shall be whole.
Right. Now, here's a cool thing about that. That's a word of knowledge. When you think something, sometimes
God puts an idea in your head.
yeah, God could have put that idea in her head, or Jesus just picked up on it. But notice here that he calls her daughter, and there's a contrast between huge contrast between the Jews or Israelites and those that were not Israelites, like the Syrophoenician woman. He called her a dog.
Yeah.
Right. So
So this would be an Israelite woman.
yeah, and not even a Samaritan probably, because we're
No.
gonna get into that tomorrow or the next time we do one.
Yeah.
So she was in covenant, and there's this one lady. He says, this lady also is a daughter of Abraham, whom Satan hath bound for 18 years, right? And so he was come not but for the lost sheep of the house of Israel, and these miracles were mainly on Jews.
Yeah. The ministry of Jesus primarily, especially at the beginning, was to the Jews. But
Right.
even in the beginning, we've already seen him talk to the Roman centurion.
Right
I don't
here.
think I don't think the Roman centurion was a Jew. So
No.
he's
No, he
already
wasn't. I'm saying,
ministered
but
to
mainly,
Gentiles. So
mainly he was for the Jews.
Yeah.
And the centurion guy, he did mighty works for the Jews. So Jesus honored that.
yeah. And he also said among the Jews, I haven't seen so great a faith. So he was kind of pointing out the fact, here's a Gentile and he's got more faith than you guys. So
Yeah.
Anyway, it's interesting that she had spent all her money on doctors and had not received any help. And a lot of us do that. We spend all our money on doctors. And Jesus, within, instantly she was healed. She was made whole from that hour. So
There's a passage where Jesus could do not many mighty works because of their unbelief.
yeah, in his own hometown. Yeah.
He couldn't do me. Yeah, and I forget where it is, but it's in there. And here he's saying her faith has made her whole. And what I want to talk about for a second is it wasn't Jesus's faith. I mean, because they're going to say there's hundreds of people thronging you, right? But only one had the faith to get healed.
Yeah.
And this verse here that she's saying within herself, the Son of Righteousness shall arise with healing in his wings. That's in Malachi. And the wings also is another word for talit. It's the prayer shawl that the rabbis would wear. And she was touching that wing, and she just knew. And I used to think that she was being superstitious. Like, where is she getting this? So I did some digging, and that's where she came from. They believed from that scripture in Malachi. Yeah. So here it is. And Jesus says that your faith has made you whole many times. I mean, this is not an isolated incident.
He said it in prior verses we've already read. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Like the men he brought their friend, and their faith healed their friend.
Yeah.
When the friend was dropped through the roof.
Right. He saw their faith.
He's like, their faith did it. So, what I've discovered, though, is God can do whatever he wants. Sometimes people that are being prayed for don't have faith. I've seen it with my own eyes. They don't seem to have any faith at all. And then God will just supernaturally do something. And then their eyes are open and you can just see their face. And they're like, wow, how did that happen?
They didn't have faith, man.
I've seen that. And I've seen the opposite. I've prayed for people and I didn't have any faith. I was like thinking nothing's happening. And then something happens and you like, wow, something happens,
Do you wonder?
I think God can do it all of the above. He can do it however he wants. But faith is a big component of anything supernatural. We have to believe. And that God tells us that he rewards those who believe.
Faith has got to be, without faith, it's impossible to please him. But Hebrews 11:6. But the thing that I'm thinking is, well, when we go out and minister on the streets, okay, who's got the faith? Gary Nesbitt or the person he's praying for? It's Gary Nesbitt.
I think it's a combination. I think they're the person, Gary, and both. And then there are times when God can just supernaturally do it. in spite of us. He does sometimes do it. Not as often. I think God prefers faith on both parties' part. I mean, that's God's perfect will, in my opinion. But
Well, one thing
do what he
also
wants.
that I think depresses people is when you tell them you didn't have enough faith.
Oh yeah.
But see, sometimes sin, like for unforgiveness,
Or
like
they've got something going on they've got a stronghold in their life they haven't relinquished.
right,
Let's say you're addicted to cigarettes, right? And you're smoking 2 or 3 packs of cigarettes a day and you've got lung cancer.
right.
Um,
God can heal that.
God can heal you,
Yeah.
but at some point you got to relinquish that thing. You have to be delivered from that addiction, and you also have to be willing to walk away from those things. So there are sins that can inhibit God's blessings, and
Well, the big one is
sure.
unforgiveness. We've seen
Oh,
I've done podcasts,
absolutely.
I've done shows. There's he will turn you over to the tormentors in Matthew chapter 18 towards the end there. So will my heavenly Father do unto you if you do not forgive everyone. And this is tormenting. And he's talking to his
It's kind of
disciples.
interesting how often
Mm.
that is in the New Testament about forgiveness being a huge, important thing. Jesus, of course,
Corinthians talking about it.
in the Sermon on the Mount, in the Lord's Prayer, that's a big piece of it. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And in Matthew chapter 18, we're going to get into that later when we get there, but that's a huge chapter on forgiveness. And then it's repeated. We read it. We were over at Faith Walk yesterday, and what was that passage she read? It said something about forgiveness.
It's in Mark 11, 21 through 26.
So there's so many passages. It's not something we should just gloss over. It matters. Unforgiveness can inhibit healing as well, for sure.
And oh man, I was going to say in Corinthians, okay, Paul says many of you are sick and dead because you drink the cup of Christ unworthily. Yeah. In other words, they're not examining themselves to see where they are in the faith. And one of the things is, this is not a popular thing that we're saying. Okay, it goes against the grain of most people, but we want to tell you the truth. We don't want to tickle your ears.
Well, we don't want to skip anything. The problem is you have to skip a lot of scripture to avoid that topic because it's in there. It's not just one spot. It's throughout the New Testament, the Gospels. It's everywhere. You got to forgive, and forgiveness is a real key to being set free. So if you're in bondage, that's the first thing you should probably look at is, okay, have I got any resentment or unforgiveness? Let's deal with that first.
Yeah. And the parallel accounts are Mark 5:32 through 34 and Luke 8:47 through 48. And one of the things that I did when I was reading this is I made the mistake of not looking at the full context, and it wasn't on the screen. She actually did touch Jesus. And that's something we need to learn, is not to Bible chop or proof text is what it is.
Right.
You isolate one text out, and you can do it accidentally. You can take
and you can read 2 different versions of the same story from different Gospels and you think a different story. So we don't know.
Like how many blind men were there?
Exactly. And there's different versions of some of these. And so you're like, I don't know what's what, but it's all true. So that's all I know.
All right, let's move on to the next one.
Okay. Matthew 29:23. And when Jesus came into the ruler's house, so let me put the backstory on this one too. While he was healing this woman with the issue of blood, there was another man that came and said, my daughter's dead or dying. I forget, sick. Please come. And so this is this story. And when Jesus came into the ruler's house and saw the minstrels and the people making a noise, he said unto them, give place, for the maid is not dead, but sleepeth. And they laughed him to scorn. And when the people were put forth, he went in and took her by the hand, and the maid arose.
Right. Now, this is one where you not only need to be aware of which covenant you're in, but where you are in that covenant. Now, see, Jesus, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they look like, oh, that's in the New Testament. No, their pre-cross is the New Testament. If you read in the book of Hebrews, the New Testament doesn't come in until the death of the testator. So this is what happened in the Old Testament. Jesus says the maid is not dead, but asleep. And you'll read many times in the Old Testament, they talk about when a saint is dead, that he is asleep. Job 7:21. For now shall I sleep in the dust, and thou shalt seek me in the morning, but I shall not be. Psalm 13:3. Lest I sleep the sleep of death. Daniel 12:2. And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life. And then Jesus also says this about Lazarus.
Yeah.
Lazarus is asleep.
But there is a case in Corinthians where he talks, some of you sleep, and he was talking about death, and this was post-cross. So I do think there is a case for, they did sometimes use the word sleep for people who had died.
Yeah, they're still saying the same thing. It's like when we say let's watch a film. Well, there hadn't been film for 50 years.
It's all digital.
Yeah. But anyway, so now to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. So another thing, I want to get across that God defines death. Now, death is not stopping breathing. Okay, it's not. I mean, that the body dies. Okay, but when we stop breathing, our soul continues on, and it's either eternal point or torment or with Jesus. But look at it this way: when Adam when Adam was banished, God says, the day you eat of that fruit, you're going to die. Well, what happened the day he ate of his fruit? He didn't stop breathing, but he was banished from the presence
from God. Yeah.
That echoes Jesus saying, depart from me, you work. It's separation from God. And one of the other proof texts is Abraham's bosom. The rich man and the beggar, one was in Abraham's bosom and the other was in hell. I'm trying to think of another one that I usually use. The prodigal son's the best. The prodigal son was a child
once dead, and now you're alive. Yeah.
Yeah, and notice the proximity there. When he was with his father, he was considered alive. But when he was far off from the pigs, he says, "This my son was dead, but now he's alive again."
Yeah.
So God defines death
is separation. Separation from God is death.
Even his disciples had a hard time. You remember about Lazarus? And Jesus had to finally say, okay, Lazarus, you guys aren't getting it. Lazarus is dead.
And this is another great point about heaven. People talk about heaven, sing about heaven. We're all going to go to heaven. But the whole point of heaven is eternal life. And life is being in the presence of God. That is life. Life is being near God. If a person has no desire to be near God here on earth, then why in the world would that person even think they're going to heaven? I mean, the whole point of heaven is to be near God. If you're already estranged from God, then heaven's not for you. It's not really designed for you. It's designed for people who are near God, and you will be near him for eternity.
What if Jesus set up shop in the Bronx? We'd stop saying, "Oh, can you wait till you go to the Bronx?" It's basically you want to be with Jesus
wherever he is, right?
Wherever.
What was that David said? If you go to hell, I'm with you. Or I mean,
yeah, that's a song.
Wherever I am, wherever you are, I swear. Yeah, that's good.
All right, so let's go to the next.
They also talk about they laughed and they put them forth, so they put the people out, so that he could raise her from the dead. He got the people and put them out that were laughing. And mocking.
Yeah, this is some good context. Okay, you're going to find that Peter does this later, and this is what's called making disciples. We've already talked about how Jesus could do not many mighty works because of their unbelief. In other words, their belief shackled his, like he wasn't going to do the works. I don't know why it happened, but see, notice here that they're laughing him to scorn, which obviously means they don't believe him. So what did he do? He put him forth, and then she's going to be raised from the dead. You're also going to notice that later on, Peter does the same thing. He puts forth the unbelievers.
Yep. But and if you think about it, we just talked about it. Without faith, it's impossible to please God. So the reason there were not many mighty works is because they didn't have faith and God didn't want to do it. I mean, that's the way I look at it. God's looking at these people like, I'm not going to heal these people. These people don't even acknowledge me. They're not even concerned about me. So,
And
but
you know, if
sometimes
you read
he'll do it anyway. Like he'll part the Red Sea when the people probably didn't even think about God at that moment. But he'll just do it for his own purposes.
for his name's sake, yea,
But
though I walk
he
through the valley.
wants faith. He wants our faith. And sometimes when that's not present, we miss out on opportunities when we don't have that faith. That's what that
Right.
means.
Vanita's in here commenting. Thank you, Vanita.
Hello, Benita. Good to see you again.
I was going to say something and I just forgot. I hate getting older.
He went in, took her by the hand, and the maid arose. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's just go to the next one. Maybe it'll come to me.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Verse 27, and when Jesus departed thence, 2 blind men followed him, crying and saying, Thou son of David, have mercy on us. And when he was come into the house, the blind men came to him, and Jesus said unto them, Believe ye that I am able to do this? And they said unto him, Yea, Lord.
All right. Well, the elephant in the room is how many men were there? You know,
Yeah,
and this I don't have
there's
the answer to
one
that.
person in another gospel, and there's 2 here. So,
Well,
yeah, maybe there's more than one incident too. I don't know.
Actually, yeah, there's one where they say blind Bartimaeus. Okay, and
well,
then
there's also going into a house in this one, and I don't know that they did go into a house on the other account. So it perhaps was a different account with different blind people.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, I poured through it a few times, and I don't think anybody really has the answer here.
No.
But notice that Jesus earlier with the maid, he says, you know, your faith has made you whole. This is really interesting. Okay, the Greek word for faith is pistis, and it's a root of the word pisteuo, which is believe. And when he's talking to the blind man here, it's pisteuo. He says, do you believe that I'm able to do this? And that word takes a much stronger connotation. It means to entrust one's well-being. It doesn't mean, this word has been so watered down since 1611 when the King James writers put it down. But now, I believe it might rain today. I'm not willing to get my head chopped off for that type of belief. But this belief is, do you trust with your life, like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? That's what that type of belief that is.
And they said yes. They said yes, Lord.
Yeah. And, you know, speaking of belief, you know, just if you just study belief, there's something called the placebo effect.
Yes.
You know, there's people that think that this pill is going to
do something, and it does something. And their own bodies are doing it, but they don't realize.
Yeah.
They don't realize the placebo is nothing. It's just their faith.
The power in that instance is the thought. Yeah. And that's where the New Agers get off, is they divorce the fact of have faith in God, Hebrews 11:22, Mark 11:22. We're supposed to believe what Jesus is the author and finisher of our faith. So we believe what Jesus said. That's much greater than the placebo.
Yeah.
You know, something else, you said something else that's pretty interesting, is he's not going to heal them until they get in the house. That's pretty interesting.
And when they come into the house, the blind man came to him. So they were following after him. He didn't stop. So unlike the woman who touched the garment, he did stop, turn, talk to her. He's continuing to walk away from these guys. It makes me wonder. Well, it makes me wonder if he didn't think they had faith.
Huh.
And he kind of put them to the, you know, he had that question, do you really think I can do this? And maybe maybe that statement when they said, yes, Lord, maybe that's the first time they really had the faith to believe.
They followed him into the house. So, you know, and that's something else. Like the woman with the issue of blood, she just doggedly determination.
She decided, I'm doing this. I'm going to crawl through this crowd. You know, and doing that alone could have gotten her killed.
Yeah.
I mean, touching somebody when you have an issue of blood, I mean, you're unclean. You're not supposed to be out in public. You're definitely not supposed to go crawling through a crowd. So she could have gotten in trouble. That would have been a problem under the law.
You know, and this does not sound like the one in Jericho to me. Because
no, I think this might be a separate incident, different blind people.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would explain a lot if there was a separate encounter.
All right. Let's see. He
We have
waits
one
till
more
we
verse?
get- Oh, yeah, one more. Let's do one more.
Yeah, this will be the last one, I guess. We don't have another one. Then touched he their eyes, saying, according to your faith, be it unto you. And their eyes were opened. And Jesus straightly charged them, saying, see that no man know it.
The messianic secret. That's what that is. People call that the messianic secret. Don't let anybody know.
Yeah.
Actually, there's more verses after this, 37, 38, but let's deal with
Let's
these
finish.
real quick.
Let's talk about these. Yeah.
He actually touched their eyes.
Yep.
And you know, he doesn't have to touch people, but he does.
Yeah.
He also he spit mud in that one guy's eye. He did something. He always does something kind of unique, though. This one seems to be.
There is no blueprint with Jesus.
No.
As soon as you think you know what he's going to do, then he ends up doing something that's different. And he's always kind of upsetting the Pharisees because he's not following their tradition. So I'm sure they're looking at this going, what in the world? And maybe he did wait till he got inside because he's keeping himself a secret. That could explain part of it too. So
The messianic secret. That's why he went inside.
He didn't want to do it outside where a lot of people would be looking on. And maybe that's what it was.
Right. And then, so in both instances with the woman with the issue of blood and the cleansed leper, I mean, all of it has a lot to do with faith. And then he says here, see that no man know it. And what's interesting is you'll notice, just like the demoniac at the Gadarene, they can't help it. When God, I once was blind, but now I see. You cannot help, even if Jesus told them not to say anything. And they're going around, they're blasting it.
Well, how could you not? Let's say you're blind.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, bam, he touches your eyes and you're healed. How in the world are you going to keep that a secret?
You can't keep it a secret.
Yeah, everybody's going to know you couldn't see and now you can. So what are you going to say?
Yeah. So when you have a radical encounter with Jesus, you're going to say something about it. And I think that we should look at this at salvation. You know, I heard a story of John Harper, right? He was a preacher during the Titanic, and he was swimming around winning souls, you know, like, you need to know the Lord Jesus and all that. And just imagine, you know, he died, but just imagine if someone did that for you in the Titanic, you would tell people about it. And
yeah, you would tell everybody.
Just like, look, man, I got to tell you, I'm alive today because John Harper, he's led me to the Lord and gave me his spot. He gave me his life jacket or whatever.
Yeah. So that the person, he says, you need it more than me. There's a lost person that didn't accept Christ, and he gave him up his spot because he knew they needed to live on. So
there's more stories. That guy talked to a lot of people before he died. I mean, there's a lot about him. But anyway, so I'm not really sure that people are you know, I don't think it's really hitting home with a lot of people what Jesus did.
And I also wonder, the Bible teaches in Revelation they overcame by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. If we're never given our testimony, are we overcoming? I mean, I think we need to do it. It's definitely something Jesus commanded.
All right.
Go preach the gospel. We got one more.
Last two. Yeah.
Then he said unto his disciples, the harvest truly is plenteous, but the laborers are few. Pray ye therefore the Lord of the harvest, that he will send forth laborers into his harvest. Wow.
Right. And this is one that we talk about this a lot, but there's a lot of people going to hell in our neighborhood. There's a harvest everywhere.
There's people everywhere with and you know what? We've got it made compared to the people that were walking the earth during the ministry of Jesus. I mean, we have, you know, people can take medicine, go to doctors, do things now. They couldn't do any of that then. They didn't have those things. They were totally dependent on God's mercy to be made well.
Right. And there's a blueprint here. Jesus gives us blueprints on how to evangelize. Number one is I'm going to make you fishers of men. Well, you go where the fish are. Number
Absolutely.
two, there's a harvest. Well, you go where the harvest is. The
Yeah.
harvest, like we can't just change.
Into his harvest.
We can't change the sign and then hope the harvest is going to sprout legs and come into the barn. Okay,
No.
that's not
We're
how
supposed to
this
go
works.
out there. Go ye. Yeah, we've got to go where the
Therefore,
harvest
go.
is. Go. There's
Anyway,
there's a lot of parables that discuss going. The two sons, one went in to the harvest and one didn't. He talks about going and doing things. So it's an important part of being a disciple of Jesus. We can't just sit and wait for someone else to do the work. We need to be laborers. And we need to probably do more of this. I personally need to do more. We need to pray that people will send laborers into his harvest, because he says right here in verse 38, pray ye therefore. So we should be praying that God will prick the hearts of people. They will no longer be comfortable in their complacency, and they will be excited to go out and spread the good news.
Let me attenuate that a little bit, okay? In James, it says, you ask and receive not because you ask amiss, that you may fulfill your selfish lusts. So the point here is, if you look at the Lord's Prayer, what's it about? It's about his will.
His kingdom come.
It's his kingdom. We're not praying. I mean, when people pray, you can kind of watch. So we're just praying what we want. Yeah. And that's not.
Check your prayer list. If you're and I've done it too. But you look at your prayer list. So and so is sick. So and so needs this. So and so needs that. Somebody needs a job.
Prayers.
I mean, all these things are needs. I'm not saying that we shouldn't pray about those things. I'm saying if that's all we're praying about, where is the kingdom come, will be done part?
Right.
That needs to be bigger than all that other stuff, because Jesus taught us that if we seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, that all these other things, which is that list I just gave you, so-and-so sick, so-and-so needs a job, all those things that we need, physical health, provision, whatever, food, room, board, all that's secondary to the kingdom. And, once we get our priorities straight, God really does supernaturally provide those things. It's amazing.
Right. And you know what else is, Susan and I, we studied revivals. We like to just, Eusebius, we like to read, church history and stuff. And I'm going to tell you something. Before every single revival, for every one of them, there is a 2 Chronicles 7:14 group of people that are praying the Lord's will. They're praying for revival.
And they're not just having one prayer meeting. It's a extended
keeps going
prayer meeting. It might be 8 or 9 hours straight. It may be weeks on end. It could be months on end. If you go back and look at the history of these revivals, it's every single time there's either an individual or a group, or usually a small group.
Study your revivals, even the Great Awakening.
And it's like and I don't think necessarily they're following each other's blueprint. They just have a heart for this, and they're using this verse and others like it.
If my people, which are called by my name, will humble themselves and
Lord
pray,
of the harvest will send forth laborers. We need to pray for these revivals to come and change people and get them into the place where they are in relationship with God.
Amen. So be aware of your prayer life. Am I just playing my own will, or Lord, what would you have me do today? Yeah. And if you're about God's business, he'll be about yours.
Yep. Check your prayer list for kingdom prayer. Amen. Do you have kingdom prayer on your prayer list? If not, add that to the top of the list.
All right. So that's good. I'm going to recap the announcements. Have an amazing interview coming out Saturday on ConradRocks.net with Harold Vondenstein. It's about his prophetic revelation for his jacket, and he talks about deliverance. Mm-hmm. It's going to be awesome. Words in Red is now in the sidebar, so you can go to the YouTube playlist on the sidebar at ConradRocks.net and just eat it up. Food pantries this Saturday at Faith Walk. Anchor Fellowship this Saturday in Troy if you want to go. Praise on the Porch is Tuesday. And anything else?
I think we got it.
All right. And once again, if this has touched you, please share this with your friends and family on social media. Till we meet again, dig deeper and go higher.
Hey there, friends. If you love what you heard, join us on Facebook, spread the word. Follow us on YouTube, stay in the loop, be part of our growing Bible with words